And I'm back. Hi again, everyone. If this is where you're starting the video, I'm Katie Silverwings. I am working on a patchwork banner and trying to live stream at the same time, and my internet connection dropped momentarily and made the stream stop working, so I had to restart it. So here I am again. I hope some of you have come back to help to watch me and hang out while I'm doing this. So I am going to turn you back around to window view, where I am currently cutting these apart. So I'll show you real quick. This is the pair of strips. Now that I've ironed them, you can see they have a nice even seam. So now I'm using my rotary cutter to cut 1.5 inch strips off of my composite strip. It's kind of a little cheater's method for getting that first bit started. It's much easier than going through and cutting a bunch of squares and then sewing all the squares together. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. And yeah, I hope that y'all enjoy if you do come back and start watching this. So assuming that I sew everything correctly, the strips in the overall pattern of these blocks will be right about 1 inch wide, using that 1/2 inch of seam allowance on either side. So one day I will have better technology for doing these live streams so that y'all can actually see more of what I'm doing, and so that when the connection drops, that doesn't happen and I don't end up having to start a video over again. But since I'm using the camera off of my webcam, because I haven't had time to go in and do the research on how other live streaming software with streaming keys and things works, I'm just using the webcam that came with my camera, and that means that if the stream drops and the settings aren't quite right, it doesn't restart on the camera. So, Facebook, why? It's okay. I mean, this is still loads above the sort of stuff I had to deal with living on the farm, because we had a dial-up connection until I was in high school, really. And when we did get the satellite connection, anytime the wind started blowing, we would lose internet, because the wind in West Texas would kick up dust, and since our signal was bounced off of a relay dish on top of a grain elevator. Hi, John. Haven't heard from you in a while. Nice to see you. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so because our internet signal was back on the farm was bounced off of a satellite dish that was on the top of the grain elevator down the road, anytime cotton harvest was going on or it was windy, all the dust kicked up would make it so that we didn't have an internet connection. So even though this one occasionally drops my stream and makes it hard for me to communicate with people, luckily I can still get it to work most of the time. So I'm just going to continue cutting all these little 1.5 inch segments, and I do think 1 strip's worth is going to be more than enough. So let's see. Let me set these out in 5s. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, 3, 4. 5. Okay. So, thing one, thank you, Katie Elizabeth, for the compliment. I love having my hair like this. It's got a little bit of purple in it now. I have it shorter because I'm a glass blower and because I didn't want to have to deal with super long hair, having to always have it braided up and in a bun, working in a workshop where the average temperature is Texas on a summer day. So, yeah, thank you. And John, it is a rotary cutter for fabric, so it is the same exact technology as a pizza cutter, but with a sharper blade. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I only sewed one of these pairs of strips together because I would have way too many blocks otherwise. Because I am making banners, I am not making a full quilt top yet. If I get stir crazy here, I will end up making an actual quilt. But right now it's banners. Although I am saving all of my leftover bits, and those will probably end up going into kind of a quilt that is a memorial to how much time I have spent working on this project. Get my hair back on my face. This is one of those processes that, like everything else I do, takes a surprisingly long time to get through. But will be worth it in the end. It is calming. Sorry. Hello, by the way. It's kind of a tedious but calming craft is kind of my thing, I think, because everything that I do at some stage involves these sort of meditative, repetitive things. Going through and making the marini and having them cut to sections and putting them together is kind of a long scale thing. But for this, it's kind of a nice rhythmic sort of thing. Definitely glad for those of you who saw me cutting the strips that I did not go in and sew them all together because I have a lot of block centers now and I'm just going to save some of them for later and use some of them now. But I'm going to finish cutting them first. All right, so there's the last one. Have fun with your blackjack, John. And Sari, nice to hear from you too. But yeah, tedious and calming. I need to put that on my websites somewhere because yeah, I do enjoy this. So now I've got all of my. I'm gonna put my rotary cutter back on its hook on the wall, and put this away as well. I have little command hooks stuck up all over the place to hold things. So now I'm going to see how many of these little bits I've got. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 38. So it takes, for 2 of the strips that I've torn from that fabric at 1.5 inches, it makes 38 block centers. I am definitely not putting 38 blocks in this banner. I will pin up some of these block centers for later, definitely these 3. And let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to go, let's see, I'm just going to count these out. 4, yeah. Although I could make something really long if I used all of these, and that is tempting, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But I do know I like it when they're about 4 blocks wide. So I think 4 blocks wide is about right for this. So if I do 4 blocks wide and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll say 6 rows down. 24 blocks, that should be fine. And then I have plenty of centers left if I change my mind. So what do I do with my extra bits? I stick a pin in them. I have to get one of my narrower pins for these. So I stick them on a pin. Aw, thank you. I hope this is enjoyable. And I stick them up on the wall. Work in progress is up on the wall. So now I've got all of these bits, and it is time for me to get my next strip ready to go. So for my next strip going onto these, don't need this, I'm going to tear some fabric. And where's my little master thing here? So I'm making this to match. So my next one is going to be red, and I think I'm going to use the bright red for this. And this my bright red? I am off frame, rustling through fabric. Beware. Ah, there's some bright red left. There. Yeah. Okay, so bright red fabric, ice dyed. And I'm going to tear a couple of strips out of this at that same 1.5 inch mark. There's one, and I'm going to just go ahead and tear a second strip. Because this is, for those of you who haven't seen me doing this before, because the fabric that I'm using is a nice straight grained woven cotton, I can do this and the strips end up nice and even straight all the way down. You can't do this with all fabrics, but it works for this. Oh, thanks. Sorry. It's more of a, with the patchwork stuff, I've been doing this for most of my life, so it is really in there. Hi, Brenda. And yes, it makes a really nice ripping sound. So once we're all not quarantined again, if you ever want to film patchwork stuff, we can add that to the list. Since I still owe you a hanging out in the hot shop while I make things sort of filmmaking session. But yeah, so I am going to press these 2 strips. and then I will add them all onto these. But their patchwork is very satisfying, and once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. Now, part of why I do this stuff is because I can't stand working on my computer for too long, and right now all I have to do for my major project, aside from taking photos of my glass with the patchwork, which I'm going to be doing once I get this banner done, I'll be taking pictures with all the different banners and things. All that I have left for my assessments is things that involve me staring at a computer screen for hours, and I just do not enjoy that for very long. I mean, even when I'm writing my stories and things, I usually do most of my drafting longhand with a pencil and paper, and then I'll go in and type it back in and then edit it. But anyway, so this is a nice bit of red fabric that has a little bit of kind of a burgundy pinkish tone to parts of it. This is all ice dyed, and I absolutely love the effects in this. So I'm just going to hold that up so you can really see all the color in this strip. Is that not just beautiful? There's a lot of satisfying stuff in all of this, I think. And watching the blocks grow is a lot of fun. For those of you who didn't see it, because you're coming in just now, this is the sort of panel I'm going to be making, although with a slightly different block pattern in the way the colors are laid out. So it's going to be a long panel with a bunch of the log cabin blocks, and then it is going to have one of these big stars, one or two of these big stars coming off of it. Stay. Actually, come to think of it, I can probably use these blocks in other things, so I am just going to go ahead and do all 38 of them, and if any end up going into my sampler leftover quilt, then that'll be fine. Alright, so let's see how many blocks I can pin with 2 strips. First, here's that second red strip. As you can see, it's got some really nice patterning in it. There's some almost facet-like folded bits to it. There's some kind of flower petal nebulous ones. This is why I love doing the ice dyes, because I get such interesting patterns in it. So now I'm going to lay out my strips. Set that one over there for now. Get my pins out and start pinning things. So all the pinning happens now. And for these, I just need 1 pin right now. And that goes right into where the seam is to make sure it stays folded correctly. And just neaten that up. Take my scissors and snip. So there's the first little block ready to be sewn. I have a mixture of big pins and little pins, so if you see me sticking a pin up here, it's because it's one of the big ones and I'm trying to separate those out, because they don't always play nice with this fabric that I'm using. See, when I'm not live streaming, I usually have a podcast or music or something on in the background while I'm sewing. There's one that's a little bit more pink. But, excuse me. Pardon me. That is not me being ill. That is me having allergies to pollen and other sundries. And because it has gotten warm here in England, I have to have the windows open for ventilation. So yeah, forgive the occasional sneeze. I'm not sick. I have not left my house in the last 3 weeks and 1 day. I just have a pollen allergy. Usually there's 2 main ones that I listen to. One of them is called Myths and Legends, and it is just retellings of fairy tales, folklore, etc. I absolutely love listening to that one. That's also what I tend to listen to while I'm cooking. I'm also quite fond of, for those of you who've heard of it, Welcome to Night Vale is something I got into back when I was in university the first time. Still a fan, still listen to those regularly. So story-based things. Generally not current events-based podcasts because I can't take that. That is too intense for me. Or it'll be music of some kind. Or actually, what else? Yes, it's so much fun. I had a feeling, sorry, that you would be a fan. But I also will occasionally, when I'm doing stuff like this, I'll be talking to my mother on Skype or something like that. So, but right now I'm listening to all the nice birds out at Farnham Park because I can hear them clearly through my window and they are happy. They are. I think the birds are all talking about how much quieter it is and how much easier it is to get to all of the seeds and things without anybody disturbing them right now. But also it's spring and they are all looking for other birds. But it's really nice certain times of day here because I'm relatively close to the park and I have a lot of neighbors down below my building have back gardens with lots of bushes and things in them. So there's this one big tree somewhere between here and there are so many little birds everywhere around here. And they are all singing. Meanwhile, out the other side I have a road with road noises. But lots of happy birds outside. So if you happen, I don't know if y'all can hear them in the background, but I do like bird sounds. Granted, I grew up in the country, so that's about all we had, unless somebody was intentionally driving down the road. Were bird sounds and cow sounds. When I have this many blocks that I'm working on all at once, the pinning and getting all the strips ready for them does take a while. But doing it the way that I'm doing it does still take less time than having to go through and pre-cut all of the strip pieces and make sure I have enough of them and that they're laid out correctly. The blocks like this that I'm making are, and like the ones I was making for the last patchwork pattern, are they're a traditional block. They're very scrap friendly. I mean, I've done a piece before where the background was ice-dyed strips done in this log cabin pattern, and it was just all cut out of an old bed sheet that I'd over-dyed. But it's a very friendly pattern if you're wanting something that makes up pretty quickly, as long as you're not making 1,000 blocks all at once. And it also just looks really nice and graphic with the strips moved together, and the way you arrange the different blocks once they're done really determines these greater patterns that go into the quilts. And it's one of my favorite patterns to work with, which is why I've done quite a bit of it with my project right now for the university. I'm very glad that I have a fabric component of my project, because otherwise I would be completely stuck. Where's one of those thicker pins? Oh no, that's nice. It's always nice when the last little bit of strip actually fits. I'm just going to have a tiny bit to trim off. So there's that one. Yes, always nice when that happens. And I still have quite a few blocks left to do, so I'm just going to see how many more I can do with this strip, and then I'll put anybody who's not got a strip piece added to it back up onto the board. Eventually, I will have a webcam to set up here so that I can show you what it looks like from my perspective. Brenda, I'm happy you find this calming. That is part of why I'm doing this, is because I feel like what I do does bring a little bit of calm, a little bit of brightness to the world. And if people need something calming to have in the background, even if it's something as mundane as me sitting here putting pins into things, then that's what I can do to help. So enjoy. And if you know anybody who might like this, do feel free to share this with them, because I do enjoy doing these live streams. Again, I'm working on figuring out how I can have an overhead view of my workstation and a better view of the sewing machine. But I am not that up on technology, webcams, filmmaking things. I have friends who are much better with such things, but I haven't been doing this long enough to really know what I need to set up. And since I live in an apartment and I don't have much space, there's not much I can do as far as permanent solutions for things. So eventually I'll get it sorted out. But right now, just going to continue pinning things and showing you from the side. Yes, can you imagine who I was talking about with the friends who know better than me this stuff? Well, I'm looking forward to the day when I can show y'all more of this is what it's like when I work in the hot shop side of things, because I really miss being in an actual hot shop working with glass. There's a reason I decided to specialize in that. I love it so much. But luckily, I also love doing this. And I was going to be doing this over the Easter break anyway. It's just I now have all this written work I have to do over break too. Actually, originally my plan was that at some point during our Easter break, I would be going up to Bath to the American Folk Art Museum and having another look at all their quilts in their display, because they have an amazing collection of quilts and patchwork there. And I went up last year to do some research for the first half of this project, but you know, I will get out there eventually again. I'm going to take a picture of this while I'm thinking of it. Again, I'm supposed to be documenting things for my project, and I need to remember to actually do that. And also taking pictures of stuff means I'll be able to post them later so y'all can see from my perspective what all this looks like. For now, here's a preview of the back of this red strip. I think part of why I really like working with the ice-dyed fabrics is because even though they do have the same colors throughout, there's variations in the tones and in how those colors are placed. So when they're cut up and put into patchwork like this, it really makes for some beautiful variations in the tones within the pieces and how the different designs are playing together that I don't control as much. So it's quite fun to see how the fabric decides to lay out. I mean, I do arrange things so they look nice sometimes, but thank you, Brenda. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time, hopefully. Yeah. Let's see. Looks like I am going to have some leftover blocks, but this will be fine. And let's see, does this fit? Ah, perfectly. Oh, that is satisfying. That is very satisfying. The last little bit of strip fit just right onto this block. All right, so those are all ready to sew, and I have 5 left over that are going to go up here and wait their turn to be turned into something another day. So now I've got all of my little blocks ready to go, and I'm going to turn you around to the sewing machine view. So if you haven't met her before, as I always say, meet Gertrude the sewing machine. She's a 1920s singer hand crank machine. I got her from Oxfam and I love her. Makes a very pleasing sound in my mind. I don't know how well it picks up on the camera, but it does make a very pleasing sound to me when I'm sewing with this. I've got to get my little pin pot out to stick the pins in as I go. And here we go. So I sew so I sew these in a long string and then I snip them apart. I'm gonna get a little bit of my sip of my tea right now because I'm starting to get dehydrated. It is a very nice sound. I have some short clips that I've uploaded on Instagram that have also been cross-posted on Facebook before of different parts of her working, and it's just, there's something nice about just an old-fashioned mechanical clicking. With the modern machines, they make more of a whirring sound than a click, and are actually much louder. I find that modern sewing machines are louder than this one. Granted, it's been a while since I've used a modern machine because I think the last time I did was when I was helping my friend Eleanor with some costumes for the Musical Theater Society last year. So she brought her sewing machine over so I could help her. That was before I'd gotten Gertrude. But
Just have to make sure to take all the pins out as I go. There's a lot of blocks this time, so every time I come to sew things, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, thank you. I do like my little workspace. I actually have a lot of little glass bits around my house right now. So I've got some little birds and things up here. Yeah, so this is one of the little glass jars I made in first year, and I use it to catch all of my pins as I sew because Gertrude does not like sewing over pins. I have broken a needle at one point in time doing that, and I don't like breaking needles, and it's not good for the machine either, or for the pins. So I have to pluck out the pins as I get to them, which is not too much of a problem on these little things because each one just has one pin. But as things get bigger and I have more and more pins, it takes a while to stop and take every pin out as I go. But pins are nice. But yeah, sorry, I know you quite well. If once we are out of quarantine stuff, when you come to get your bird, you can come see my workspace, which is actually much messier than it looks from most of the angles that you've seen, mainly because I have a lot of fabric out that I need to put away. I think I like the things I like about the live streams in part is that I do get to kind of talk to people while I'm doing it to some extent. It's like talking to myself, but there's actually another person there. Well, true. There's messy, and then there's just kind of organized chaos, and my studio space is in organized chaos because I spent the first week after I got sequestered into my house cleaning and reorganizing my studio. So I got a new little thing to keep some of my things in, and I've got different things moved around the house. I've got a lot more glass hanging out in the house than I used to because everything came back from campus, but I've always had bits of glass from previous years around. So yeah, it's kind of a participatory live stream.
And give me a moment. My father is trying to call me. So I have to find Skype. And let him know that I will call him as soon as this is done. If he will stop calling me long enough for me to tell him that. There we go. Usually he's on here watching me. No, I'm gonna finish up these last few blocks and then I'm going to stop and call him, because that's once I get these done and pressed open is when I'm going to stop for the night and get dinner. It's more, my dad usually watches the live streams, but today he forgot to look for that before he started trying to call me. So he's been showing me videos of the yard around my mother's house and the irises and the plants, and he's been cleaning out the fish pond and all that stuff. So I will be talking to my dad. Don't worry, guys. I'm not slighting him. It's just he knows that I am not at a stopping point yet, because I need to get these done. I want to at least get them all, this particular strip put on all of them and press them open today, and then I will pick them up tomorrow to finish them. Yeah, since my father can't go into work right now because he's old enough to be at risk and his job involves talking to a lot of people all day because he works in the plumbing department of a hardware store, he's been allowed to stay home, which means he is doing all sorts of fun house cleaning and things around and yard work, and he has robins, American robins, so the bigger birds, that follow him around the yard when he's working in it because they know he means worms will appear out of the ground for them to eat. And since it's spring in Memphis, everything is blooming, so he usually has some nice pictures of the flowers to show me too. It is. I'm getting close to the end of the pile, see? Just move it where you can see my pile. It's getting smaller. There we go. You can see the pile there. Ah, my father is now watching. Hi, Dad. 4 more. And then I can start snipping these apart and then pressing them. I'm excited to see how these look pressed. I think you'll like them. All right, that's the last one. So, also this method makes for excellent bunting in a pinch. If I ever needed to make bunting, this is a nice way of doing that to get those nice little streamer bits. Anyway, I'm going to snip all of these apart into a pile. And then once I've got them all snipped apart, I will take them over and press them. As you can see, it has gotten darker in my house because it has gotten dark outside. It has suddenly become nighttime in Farnham. We went from bright sun to pretty much dark quite quickly today. Granted, I have very little sense of time passing when I'm working. I think that might be partially because of the tedious yet meditative nature of most of my work. I tend to be focused on what I'm doing rather than on what time it is, which is part of why I do the live stream thing when I'm doing the patchwork, because otherwise I would forget to stop and eat or work on my other things that I have to do. You know, the essay I have to write about this project, and I've almost finished my practice portfolio unit. I should be hopefully getting my website finished in the next couple of days. And yeah. It's a nice phrase. That's one of my new favorite phrases, I think. Thank you. I hope it goes well too. All right, so got my little thread snips all done, and I have a pile of blocks. Now I just need to press them all open. So I'm going to turn you around. And here we are. I'm going to take a picture of my little pile of blocks so that I don't forget to have it for my documentation. Because I do have to document everything that I'm doing. I forgot to do that on the last one. There we go. And now to press these open. Yay! Okay, so I will show them to you as I press them because there are going to be some wonderful variants in this red. So the idea here is to press it so that it's going away from that white piece of fabric in the center. And here's the first one. It's got kind of a little cloud going on. And there's the second one. So one of the red pigments that I've used on these, I'm not entirely sure why, but when it is ironed, so when it's heated, it gets a little bit darker and then it goes back to being the same color again. So some of these red bits in the end will probably be just a touch lighter than they are now. So there's another one. And there's that one. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes me to press all of these open. There's another one. I'm going to get quite a stack of blocks here. Getting a nice little stack. Just so many more left to do. Stupid allergies, why? Thank you. I appreciate it. There's another one. Yeah, I was fine my first spring here, as far as the pollen allergy went, and then my body adjusted and realized there is pollen in England, we must sneeze. But it's real, since there's no other real ventilation in this house unless I open the window, it's kind of a sneezing is just a thing that I have to deal with. But luckily, it is just allergies. There's another one. Yeah, but in general, places here don't have that much in the way of air movement in them. They're made to be warm. There's another one. So I need to get my little box fan out because it's starting to get to the time of year when, since I'm up in the rafters of this building, there's no real air movement. All the heat rises up. All the heat comes in from the roof. It's just kind of it's always warm up here, essentially. So I a lot of times have to have this window open as well for a cross breeze, and I have a little box fan that I have to get out eventually. It was quite during this summer when we had this big heat wave. Um, and it was actually cooler and more comfortable in the glassblowing studio I was doing work experience at than it was in my house. Because at the studios, we have fans to move the air around. Has anyone been keeping count of how many of these there are? I haven't. But I don't know how well it's showing up just because of the lighting in here. But each one of these has a slightly different pattern and color tones on it. So that one's got a bit more pink. Getting to the bottom of the stack. You see why I'm stopping here for the night. I want to get these pressed open though. All right, so you haven't been keeping count. I haven't been keeping count. I'll need to count them once I'm done pressing them open. See how many blocks I'm working with. There's one that has a nice pink flowery bit. There's another one. Luckily, when they're this small, it doesn't take long to go through and press everyone. There's a nice little pattern in that one. It's almost got a nice little circle in it. There's another one. And 1, 2, 7 more. Almost looks like it's got a little Loch Ness Monster head peeking up out of it. There's that one. And there's another one. Getting there. Almost done, guys. Which is good because I'm starting to actually get hungry. There's another one. See, even though I have a lot of stuff I need to get done in the next week and a half or so. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get a little chunk of it done every day, and these banners are part of it. So as long as I'm making some progress on them every day, that means I'm getting somewhere. Just trying to do little bits at a time as opposed to doing everything at once. Well, don't let me keep you from your dinner, Sari. But there's only one more after this one. So there's that one. Ooh, that one's got a lot of nice little orangey tones up here in the corner. And last one. And I'm going to turn the iron off and show you this last one. And that's it for me for tonight. I have quite a few blocks here that I'm going to be working on the next couple of days, if not for the rest of the week. So I'm going to just leave you all now with a positive, happy, I hope your day is going well or that it will get better from here. And with all this stuff, thank you for hanging out with me. I hope this has brought a little bit of calm and bright colors to your day. And remember, whatever is going on in the world or for you personally, you will get to a point where things will get better. It just, sometimes it takes a while, but there is always hope and there's always something good around the corner. It just takes a while to get there sometimes. So I'm going to go make my dinner now, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye. And I will remember to count them and tell you when I start up next time. So good night.